Thanks everybody for coming out today. I think everybody knows Michael Breed. He has a fantastic presentation for us today. Just my little housekeeping notes as we get started. Next week we will not have a winter education forum. A lot of areas have off from school and people are away. The week after that, February 25th, we will have a presentation on financial literacy and planning. So we'll have three gentlemen that will present that day. We have Paul Herman, who's a certified public accountant, works with a number of golf professionals in the section. We also have Kyle Hublitz, who is a financial planner, and Amy Ross, who is a pension planner. Each brings a little something different to the table. I think to help us in how we conduct our businesses, set our businesses up, as well as plan for our business and personal future. So that should be a great presentation as well. Location will be announced. We're still working on a location in the Westchester area for that event. But with that said, I think Michael has a lot of great content today. I know I always learn a great deal when I hear him present. I really appreciate Michael giving us the time here today. And Michael Breed.
Thank you. First of all, welcome. Thank you all for coming out. I'm going to start this with a question. And the question is, what are you all hoping to get out of this? Why are you here? I got 2 hours.
To learn something new.
So about what?
Who knows?
Just so for you, it's just, hey, I just want to hear what you've got prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody know what we're trying to talk about or what we want to talk about?
Branding and marketing.
Branding and marketing. Okay. Why is that an important thing now? Why is branding and marketing an important thing for you all in 2016?
Field's more competitive.
Sorry?
Field's more competitive.
Field's more competitive. Why is the field more competitive? Industry retraction. Do you guys know what's going on in the industry? In the last 7 years, 1,200 golf courses have closed down. 1,200. What does that mean to you?
Less jobs.
Less jobs. Which means what?
More competition.
Which means what?
Stand out.
Which means what? Jobs are going to be sold for less dollars. You will make less money. That's what it means to me. $50,000 job is going to go for $42,000. Why? Because there's a whole lot of people that will take the job for $42,000 because they're making nothing now. That's what it means. Now, why is branding and marketing important?
Keep your value up.
Sets you apart from the rest.
Sets you apart from the rest. Which means what?
More money.
Why more money? You're right, but why?
More visible.
More visible? Which means what? Yeah, you're more visible, but what? So what?
High demand, you're able to charge more for your time.
Maybe you can charge more for your time. Maybe the place where you're going to go work is going to value you more than somebody else. Maybe because everybody lives in the what's in it for me society. And it doesn't matter what it is. We're all animals. We all want to stay alive. Doesn't matter whether you're Westchester Country Club or you're Michael Breed. You want to stay alive. What's in it for me? Why would a club want me at their place? Because somehow it's going to be an advantage for them. Right? Okay. Do you understand why this is important? Do you get this? Okay. Now, what are some of the things that are important as you start to look at what's going on in brand building or marketing, as well as what's happening in the real world? The 1,200 clubs closing down in 7 years. And one of the things that's important for you to realize is you have to be able to connect dots. This world is about connecting dots. In order for you to take advantage of the opportunities that you have, and we have plenty, you have to be able to connect dots. So, what is 1,200 clubs closing down? What does that mean? What does branding and marketing mean? And how is it going to affect you and what you do? Well, in order for you to become successful in your branding and marketing, right, you have to do a couple of different things. One, you have to be entertaining. Because you're a brand, whether you like it or not, and whether you believe it or not, you're a brand. And nowadays, anybody that gets on, and I don't know if you guys are following any of these different groups on Facebook, but if you watch what's happening on Facebook, everybody's trying to build a brand. Right? How are they building their brand? What are the things that they're paying attention to in order to build their brand? And what do you need to think about when you're building a brand? What do you think you need to think about?
Who your demographic is, and you're trying to reach.
Who you're trying to reach? That's really important. Yep. What else? What do you stand for? Yeah. More than anything else, what do you want to be? Think about what you want your brand to be. So when I'm building my brand, the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to figure out what I wanted, how I wanted to be looked at. So I wanted to be approachable. That was the key to me. I wanted to be the same person that I was in front of a camera as I am when I'm sitting down having dinner or beer or whatever with anybody. That's what I wanted to be. So I needed to make sure that when that camera went on, that I was that guy, which is why at the start of the show it's a little bit crazy, it's sort of a little bit kind of Humpty Dumpty, we don't really know exactly what's going on, and if I make mistakes, I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And I'm okay telling people that I'm dyslexic. Because what I don't want to do is be perceived there. I want to be here. I want to be an equal. That's my goal. And I've done everything I can do in order to ensure that. It's why I go and I talk to PGA sections. It's why I go and I spend time with the Met section. It's why I tell everybody to go see a PGA professional. I was not encouraged to do that. That's what I wanted to do. It was an opportunity for me to try to grow the PGA of America, to try to grow the game of golf. That was also what was important to me within building my brand. So when you sit down, what do you want your brand to be? Because even though you think that you're a head pro at St. Andrews, you have a brand. And your brand is not only within that little community, but it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you play more tournaments and play more successfully in tournaments, or work at a club, or work at a college. Whatever it is, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because everything's getting smaller and smaller. So everybody's coming to you and you're going to them. It's getting squished from the inside out and from the outside in. Does everybody understand that? So before you do any of that, you've got to find out what you want to be. You want to be a golfer? You want to be a golf professional? You want to be an instructor? You want to be a club fitter? What do you want to be? And it doesn't matter. And then you have to take the steps necessary to do that. So let's just say we want to be branded as a golf professional in the Metropolitan section. That's what we wanted to be branded as. What are the things that we have to do in order to be successful in that branding? What do we have to do?
Personality.
Personality? Okay. Personality is an important thing.
Credentials.
Yeah. What else?
Reputation as a teacher or a player or both.
Develop a reputation as a teacher or player or both. Yep. What else?
Look the part.
Yeah, look the part. It's one of the most important things that you can do for your brand. So you gotta look the part. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you have gone to a clothier of some sort and asked them what colors are good on you? Raise your hand if you've ever done that. And then look around and see how many hands are up. How many hands are up? 2. First impression is the most important thing that you can understand. In this whole thing, every day is a first impression. Doesn't matter. It's a first impression. And what you look like is just that, the impression. How do you want to be perceived? Because colors are a big part of it. So you guys get dressed today. My assumption, when I get dressed, this is the best I can look today. Wasn't as good as yesterday, but this is the best I've got today. Okay? And I assume you all are doing the exact same thing. So the question is, did you do that? Raise your hand if you did that today. Raise your hand if you picked out the clothes, the exact clothes that you thought would make you look the best you possibly could, looked in the mirror and went, this is the best I can look today. Raise your hand. You guys are lying your ass off. You know it?
What you wear yesterday?
Exact same thing. My face just changed a little bit, just got one day older. This is something that you should do, and you should go see somebody that's a professional about it. Because your eye color, your skin color, your height, everything, it all factors in to what you look like. 93% of all communication is nonverbal. 93%. I talked to a number of golf professionals because there's a lot of people that want to try to teach on television or in front of a camera. So people reach out to me, and if you're one of those people and you want insight, believe me, I'm happy to help. I really am. There are a lot of people in this room who have spoken to me, and I'm happy to help. You have to take care of the most important stuff first. And the most important stuff is not your knowledge. That is not the most important thing. Spent time talking to a guy yesterday who's a very talented instructor out in California. Had me looking at his videos. He's really getting better. And his latest video, which happened to get onto Golf Channel, was really good content, succinct, to the point, everything, but his hand movement is offensive. And hand movement is a really important thing, which gets us to body language. Because if I'm sitting here and I'm talking to Steve and I'm going like this all day long, at some point he's going to feel like somebody's attacking him. So there's a key to hand movement. One of the keys is making sure that your elbows don't leave your side. Why is that important? As a golf teacher, it's connection, right? Your arms don't get away from you, your hands can't get away from you. It's the same thing. So when I'm doing what I'm doing, there's an occasion where my elbows are going to get away from me, but it's not habit. My habit is my hands are in here. And as I do that, my hands maintain, this is crazy stuff, but if you're really interested in building your brand, this is stuff you need to think about. It doesn't matter where the club is. Nobody cares. Promise you, nobody cares. I've had a show for 8 years. Do you think I have 300 plus shows of content? Think about this. There's 8 segments in every show. Do you think that you have 2,400 different things to talk about in this game? Not a chance. You're relying on people forgetting. You're relying on the fact that what you say comes out, they don't get, so you can say it again and again and again and again and again and again. That's how it works. As you are involved in whatever it is that you're involved in, if you don't get that your body language is a key thing, you're missing the boat. And not just when you're standing in front of a camera. Being able to understand when somebody is receptive to information or they're not. And I'll give you a simple example. Anytime you're talking to somebody as they're processing information, they have, basically we all have a blink that happens. And so the eyes are going to blink. And as we're processing information, the eyes will blink faster. So when I'm talking with somebody and I'm giving a golf lesson, I'm trying to find out what their blink rate is. Because as I'm watching them do what they're doing and they're standing over the ball, if their eyes are going and fluttering, it's probably a bad time for me to introduce new information. To that end, when people feel like they are getting, and I'll just say attacked, because that's a bad word, but when stuff is coming at them and they don't necessarily like what's coming at them, they will get small in their body language. So they'll cross their arms and they'll cross their legs and they'll shrink. Now, this is important not just when you're giving a golf lesson, but also when is that important? When do you think that body language would be important? Understanding that body language, not just yours, but the individuals. When do you think that would be important?
Interview process?
Interview process. Right? You're sitting in an interview trying to get, if you're an assistant trying to get a head job, or you're trying to get a head professional job, or you're trying to get a director of golf job or a GM job, and you're trying to talk somebody or convince somebody that what you have is important for their direction and their success, and they're sitting there in a chair with their arms and legs crossed and they're kind of looking down like this, you've lost them. Now, understanding how to get them back, that's an art. Same way as when you're in a golf lesson, there's an art to it. And that's all part of building your brand. That's all part of marketing. It's all part of being a good golf professional. It's all part of being a good teacher. Do you understand? Anybody have any questions about that? So what other outside of the box things do you think that you need, or talents that you think that you need to acquire in order for you to be able to be successful in this brand/marketing space? We've talked about what we wear. We've talked about our body language. Has anybody ever gone and studied any body language or taken any body language classes or courses? Okay, what else do you think that you need to do?
Be somewhat tech savvy.
Got to be tech savvy, but we're still in the instructional space, right? I want you to think outside of the instructional space. I want you to think in the space before you even, because remember, 93% of communication is nonverbal. So it's great, but that tech space stuff, that's in the 7%. That's like in putting, worrying about what's happening with the path. Who really cares? It's the face. That's like 90 to 95, that's my 93% thing. So what else do you think that you need to do?
Your verbiage?
Verbiage? What do you mean?
Just the language you use and how you present it. Sometimes I always think of like Sean Foley and how he kind of presents things a little bit differently.
Okay.
He comes across image-wise as maybe more educated because of the verbiage he uses and how he
So
presents.
communication skills. Okay? So you got to study communication skills. Right? All right, so what do you need to know in communication skills? This is an interesting example. So Sean Foley comes across as a very, very smart, savvy, well-read guy, right? Is that important in communication skills? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? John, why no?
You have to understand how people learn and communicate how they're going to learn that.
Communication is not what comes out of your mouth. It's what goes into their ears. That's communication skills. You guys seen the show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Do you know why it's fifth grade? Because communication skills, if you talk to anybody about understanding communication skills, you have to speak at a third grade level. People as a whole process information at a third grade level. It's wonderful to be perceived as an intelligent, well-read, scholarly individual, but does that really help your communication skills? Because there's a difference. There's a difference between what you know and how you share what you know.
Michael, do you see that being relevant to your clientele though? As to the question, the more articulate you are, the more knowledgeable you are, some of our members.
If I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you guys are probably going to process golf instruction at maybe a 7th grade level or an 8th grade level or a college level or biomechanics. I mean, who knows? I don't know. But what I know is even when I speak to PGA professionals, I'm at a 3rd grade level. The most important thing for me when I'm presenting is that people walk out of here knowing what I believe and hoping that you're now, in your mind, understanding of what I believe is important to be successful. Right? So in my life, I'm doing okay. Like I know where I'm going with what I'm trying to do with my brand and where I'm going. I'm okay. And what I want to do is I want to make sure you guys are okay. And so what I want to do is explain it in a way that you go, okay, this is good. I get this. I understand this. There's nothing worse. Have you ever given a golf lesson and said something to somebody and you just get that blank look in their face? And they don't have the courage to say, I don't know. I don't understand. Right? Have you guys ever experienced that? What do you do when you get that? What do you do? What do you do when you look in their face, you're giving a golf lesson, they don't understand? What do you do?
Just the W's down.
Say it differently. That's the game. Say it until they understand. It's the most important thing you can do. Why else, John? Anybody else? Yeah. Grammar? The usage of proper grammar. Why is that important, John?
I'm listening to Sirius XM.
Yep.
I'm very in tune with every one of you with what you're saying and how to use good or bad grammar.
Okay.
To me personally, when I hear bad grammar, my attention level to the information drops.
Okay.
I want somebody who speaks well and doesn't use legal slang.
All part of communication. Grammar is really important. Yep. Brilliant. Yeah.
How to be people smart.
How to be people smart. How do you become people smart?
Just smile, ask questions, show interest, concern, like you said, body language.
Okay.
Very important.
So what goes into being people smart?
Listen.
Listen. Brilliant. A good friend of mine, David McGoldrick, who's no longer with us, said, God gave you one mouth and 2 ears, do the math. Right, Jimmy? Listen. And watch. What goes into being people smart? Their actions and experience, what they do for a living, how many kids they have, where their kids are in the world as far as schooling or not in school, what their limitations are.
Being invested in that.
Sorry?
Being invested in that.
Being invested in them. Exactly. Particularly if you're trying to build your brand and you want your brand to be you being approachable. Right? Then you better invest in them. Okay, anything else?
Compliment.
Can't use words I can't spell. Confluent?
Compliment.
Compliment. Okay. Complimenting people is one of the most important things that you can do. This is outside of instruction. It's one of the most important things that you can do. Why?
People want to feel good.
People want to feel good. Yep. If you get into one of these I don't even know what you call these things on Facebook where everybody starts writing down what they think is important and how stupid everybody else is that's in there that doesn't agree with them. You guys read any of that? I'm telling you right now, singularly, there is nothing that pisses me off more than that. You know why? Because if I stand there and I say A, and Carl says B, and Ben says C, what do you think the average person thinks? The non-golfer. What do you think that person thinks about golf instruction as a whole? What do you think they think?
Chaos. Too complicated. So no one agrees.
Inconsistent. Not very friendly. Nobody knows what they're talking about.
Nobody knows what they're talking about, which means they don't trust you, which means what? Another staggering statistic. 80%. In other words, you guys grew up with this 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed, recommended. Do you remember that ad? 4 out of 5 people that play the game of golf don't take a golf lesson. 4 out of 5. Four out of 5 people that play golf don't take a golf lesson. And we're in there having a debate over why we think one theory is better than another theory. Look at what happens in martial arts study. How many different types of martial arts are there? Has anybody studied martial arts? How many different types of martial arts are there? Can't even count them, right? Okay. But nobody in the Taekwondo thing starts beating up the Jiu-Jitsu people and having a debate over the Tai Chi people. Like, that doesn't happen. But in our industry, it's rampant. And then what we do with our genius minds is we share it for everybody to see. And we think we're growing the game of golf. Well done. I'm not kidding you. It irritates me. Because everybody's stuff works. Sean Foley helped Tiger Woods win 5 times in a year. Has anybody done that? Has anybody helped anybody win 5 times in a year on the PGA Tour? Raise your hand. Of course not. But his stuff works. But he gets vilified because somebody else thinks that you should lift your foot up in the backswing, and this guy doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. And now, if you guys are keen to what's happening in the world right now, there's a book coming out that basically is going to say, we don't know what we're talking about instructional. Wait till that comes out. Wait till you have to put out that fire. Guess what happens then? We're all going to be on the same team because somebody's shooting at instruction. Are there different types of theories that work? Of course there is. And they work. But we want to sit there. It's what I call a zero balance game. You guys know what a zero balance game is? A zero balance game is if Steve gets a +1, I'm not still at 0. I'm actually at a -1 because it all has to add up to 0. We don't live in a zero balance game. He can win. We can all win. And it's okay to say, yeah, you know what? Like, Steve's doing a great job. Got on Golf Channel, he's got this putting method, it's working out great. People are loving it, and he's growing the game. Great job. Doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. You haven't said he knows more than you. You've just complimented on what he's done. That's all you've done. Complimentary, right? That's what it's about. But what ends up happening is when people get into this thing, what do you think they do to their brand? I've had this conversation with Joseph Mayo. Okay? I like Joseph. I think he's incredibly smart. He can't help himself. He just can't help himself. It's like he's like a phlegmbot, and all of a sudden his head just like blows up. Because he has to say something, and he has to create, he has to stir it up a little bit. So he wants to ask a question that we all know that the end game is going to pit somebody else against somebody else. And I actually made a phone call to not Joseph, although I've called him many times, and Joseph and I are friends. But I made a phone call to a guy that's leading a discussion in one of these groups because I watch it. I never get involved, but I watch it. And the guy is a great guy. And he's not argumentative, and he's extremely complimentary, and he does a wonderful job in his own little part of the world. He seeks education whenever he possibly can, but he asks questions that are going to create conflict. And I said to him, you don't have to be that guy. You're not that guy as a whole. Don't turn your brand into something that you're not. That's why you go back to that other thing of what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What kind of a husband do you want to be? What kind of a spouse do you want to be? What kind of a father do you want to be? Think about your behavior. The same way you do in everything that you do. What do you want to be? It's what I call motion with direction. We all move, but are we moving in a directed place? And the people that are moving in a directed place make a straight line to that place. And people that don't know where they want to go have the same amount of motion. It just gets them nowhere. And then they end up getting pissed off that the world has dealt them a bad hand. I can't get a break. No kidding, you can't get a break. Because you don't know where you're going. When I talk to college kids and high school kids, that's my whole thing. Where are you going? What do you want to be? How do you want to be? Forget about reputation. Character is the most important thing. Concern yourself with character, you're going to be fine. Your reputation will be fine. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of people in the world that don't like you. Don't worry about it. When they say something that says that they don't like you, it's okay. I know there are people that don't like me. It doesn't keep me up at night. My wife tells me she doesn't like me. I got a big problem. My kids share that with me. That's a big problem. And I worry about that. But if somebody in the Ozarks doesn't, I'm okay. It's okay. No problem. I don't like eating fish. My world's fine. Some people don't like Michael Breed. I'm okay. You better understand that when you start getting out there. But don't ask them to not like you. Don't try to put somebody against somebody and ask somebody not to like you. It's not what you want to do with your brand. Okay? Anybody confused about any of this stuff? Okay. Yeah.
I think you bring up a really good point on that social media, and I like males.
I love Joseph.
I don't love him, I like him.
Okay.
And now what's happening, and I talked to him about this personally, he's getting other good instructors to follow suit.
Of course he is.
And now it's becoming,
It's an epidemic.
It's like the Cape Buffalo theory.
Of course.
They all run, but they don't know why. And you're right, and it's growing. And I keep telling him that he's in charge of that growth in this country.
So why do we think it's growing?
Pardon me?
Why do we think it's growing?
Because I don't think and I teach full time, so I'm kind of involved in it. I think that as a group, as an instruction, we can't give other people credit.
It's one word.
Jealousy.
Jealousy. It's the ugliest of human characteristics. It's the ugliest of human characteristics. Jealousy.
No, I think and you are kind of at the forefront of that. In a way. Because I'm involved in social media pretty much around the globe, and they know I'm in the med section, and they're in the med section, I get stuff all the time about you.
Of course you do.
Right? And I agree with this, and I agree with that. And I'm not saying this because I like what you do, I'm saying this because it's true. And my response to them is that you have done more for their revenue than any other golf instructor I know, because you have made golf instruction fun. It's cool. You've done a really good job at embracing it. And I explain to them, they are not your audience. You're not talking to them. But for some reason, we seem to be on the lower end of the food chain, and we don't get that. We don't get that whatever you do on your show, both on radio and TV, benefits me all the time. I always, my clients, weekly, did you see Michael Brady? He said this, what do you think of that? That's good for me.
You bet it is.
And I
It's
see
great
that.
for you.
But
Particularly if your philosophy is different from my philosophy.
so what?
That's exactly the point.
But as an industry, we don't get that for some reason.
Because the industry is, and I'll tell you a very interesting story. So does anybody know who David Orr is? You probably do know who David Orr is. So I'm doing an infomercial with David Orr, who I like David very much. And we're sitting down in the middle of this, we've got a break, and we're sitting down to eat lunch. And David and I are talking, about 20 minutes into the conversation, he goes, "You're a lot smarter than I thought you were." And I said, "Thank you." And he goes, no, I mean that. And I go, yeah, I know, I mean it too. Thank you. And he says, why are you saying thank you? And I said, because I don't have to share with you all the information that I have. And to that end, I don't have to say it in a way that makes you think that I'm the most well-read, most studied individual that's out there. My job is to make you understand what I have to say and have a simple direction to go and do whatever to solve whatever issue that is. That's my job. I'll tell you my other job, the way I look at this. My other job is that there's a guy sitting behind the camera who's got a family of 2, and he wants to keep his job. This is serious, and this means a lot to me. There's another guy that's in charge of all the stuff that comes into my ears. He sets up everything, all the packs and everything. That guy's got a family. And my goal is to make sure that they still get paid. The other thing is, and look, I've had some great fortune in my life, but my fortune has not been financial. My fortune has been the things that are shared with me from people. And you guys do this, you just don't get this. So I get an email from a guy who's sitting in a hospital for 5 months battling cancer. And he shares with me that what I do on my show and the fun that I'm having and the joy that I have in teaching lessons and doing all that motivated him to beat cancer, and he's going to get out and he's going to start playing, and then he sends me an email when he gets out. I get another email from a guy who loses his job. He's 58 years of age. He loses his job. He's got 2 daughters in college. He spent 6 months trying to get a job. He can't get a job. So what does he do? First thing he does is he resigns from the club that he's a member at. Still can't get a job. So then what does he do? The unthinkable. He actually takes his daughters out of college and has to send them to community college. Then he starts trying to figure out how he's going to shop differently. Then he stops hitting golf balls. And he says, my self-confidence has plummeted. And the hour that I get to watch you and the hour after that where I go into my garage and hit balls are the only 2 hours during the course of the day that I actually have an ability to escape what's going on in my world and think about like something I really dearly love, which is golf. And I don't feel like a loser, and you're doing that. Now, truth be told, if I'm concerned with my brand and being approachable, that keeps that guy watching. That maybe keeps that guy still trying to get a job instead of going and blowing his head off. That's what you guys are doing. And that's what you need to be aware of is going on. But you don't have that arena that I have. But that's what you're doing. And in that arena, there are people that are still beating each other up in the instruction space because what they want to do is convince everybody that they're smarter than you are. And that somehow, with them being smarter than you are, that's going to A, grow the game, and B, be more financially beneficial to them. And when it's not, they can't understand it. Because what they don't understand is they've turned people off from them and from golf instruction. You get it? Now, let me tell you why. I asked you at the beginning of this, why all this is so important. So here's what you need to be able to do in this connecting the dots space. Okay? The world is changing really fast. The world is changing really fast. 3 years from now, there will be cars on the road that don't have drivers in them. That's 3 years away. Now, what do you think that means to your life and the world? What do you think that means?
I bought a new car too soon.
Hold on a second. What's that?
As you said, I bought a new car too soon.
You bought a new car too soon.
Should have waited 3 years.
Do you see the evolution of golf instruction going online to where people are just doing swing reviews?
If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. He said, do you see the future of golf instruction going online?
To where you send in swing reviews and just getting a video back?
We're going to get to that in just a second, but that's a really good job connecting the dots. It's exactly what this is all about. Because before, it was one way, and now it's another way. Let's deal with this car thing for a second, then we'll get back to this. What does the car thing mean to you? What do you see going on in the future? What's 5 years outlook? If we know that the 3 years out is going to be driverless cars, what does 5 years out look like? Are there more cars on the road or less cars on the road?
Less.
Why less?
Because people would go more Uber.
Why would they go more Uber?
Because convenience.
Because why else? Because it's less expensive. Why is it less expensive? Because you don't have to pay for the donut sitting in the driver's seat anymore. Right? Why else is it less expensive? You don't have to pay for the gas. Why else is it less expensive? You don't have to pay for the car. Why else is it less expensive? You don't have to pay for insurance. So what do you think ultimately happens? Well, what I think happens is that this becomes public transportation. That's what I think happens. It's public transportation. I was down in D.C. on Saturday. We're walking up to go get a tour of the White House. We parked down by the Washington Monument. I've not used Uber before. I know of it. I've watched it, but I've never used it. So my niece, who lives on Uber, goes, "Oh, there's one a minute and a half out." Sure enough, guy shows up, minute and a half later, up to the White House. Minute and a half. There was a surgery, a brain surgery, performed in England 3 years ago, where the guy who was performing the surgery was 400 miles away from his patient. The surgery went great, and when he was interviewed afterwards, you know what he said? He said the surgery went better than he could have done it if he was there in person, because the machine that's operating on it is more exact, so when he moves whatever instrument that he's moving, it can be more precise. Now, what do you think is going to happen with golf instruction? Well, let's back up before we get to that answer. What do you think is going to happen with PGA professionals, and what do you think is going to happen with jobs?
Clubs are going to start paying less for individuals.
Clubs are going to start paying less. Why?
Because they can replace the higher end guys.
Because there's more people.
More people.
Right. What else is going to happen? What's that? That's right. That's why I brought the car up. It's exactly right. It's going to be like the car. So how's it going to be like the car?
Incomes will go down.
It eventually gets phased down. What do you think happens with clothing in golf shops? They're going to buy it online. If you were going to invest in a company right now, who would you invest in?
Under Armour.
Amazon? Would you invest in Amazon? How about UPS? You don't think this is making a difference? What do you see happening with the United States Postal Service? You see the guy show up at your mailbox on Sunday. Remember I told you every entity is an animal? They want to stay alive. When was the last time you mailed, literally like put a stamp on an envelope and sent it out? When was the last time you did that? Anybody do it yesterday? You guys are just telling me that you're old. That's all you're telling me. So, do you think there's going to be clothing in a golf shop? Maybe at Wingfoot. Maybe at Westchester. Yeah, Jim.
I think everyone's going to have their own kind of personalized app or whatever. It's going to be their own personalized golf shop, their own personalized on-demand golf pro. And everybody will be able to access that at any of their time, 15 minutes here, an hour there. It's kind of the way the coach is moving.
Everybody wants everything when they want it. So in television, they call it appointment TV. Appointment TV is the Super Bowl. It's sports. There's a basketball game on, and it's on at 7. I have to watch it. That's appointment television. Appointment television, absent of sports, is dying. A year after the NHL almost collapsed, NBC paid $1.9 billion for that entity. You guys are now watching sports you've never watched in your life. You're seeing soccer. Like, I'm down in Virginia on that trip, and this guy is now a fan of Manchester United. I couldn't tell you one number on the Manchester United team. He knows the whole team. Why? Because content on this space is so simple now. People turn on television and there's sports all over. Has anybody flown JetBlue? So I started flying JetBlue 8 years ago. There were like 4 sports networks at the start, and everything else was whatever it was on there. Now, the first 10 stations are going to be sports. FS1, I think it's NBC, I don't even know what they all are. What's that?
The new planes have golf.
They have golf on when NFL is out, so you'll get it now. It'll be on that channel 36. It'll go through until football season starts, and football's a beast. It's the beast, but it's on there when football's out. But point is that that's where everything is headed. And to Jimmy's point, here's the way the world is going to look. You are going to have, I actually heard a gentleman who at the time was the highest guy with the TaylorMade group. In a forum of 500 people, he had no idea I was sitting in this forum. And he said, this is what the future looks like. You will order a set of golf clubs online with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And when it comes in, it will be set to whatever it is that you think that you are, but you'll be able to adjust every single club. Every single club, you'll be able to adjust. The same way that, are we smarter than anybody else because we know how to adjust a club? Because I can tell you that just 2 days ago, I had to go onto my phone and find out the new 16s came in, my hybrid came in, and I had to figure out, because I didn't want the loft that was on there, I wanted to change the loft, and I also want the toe to sit in the ground a bit, and I didn't know what the combination was, so I went on, I had to look it up. Oh, I need it to be B4, whatever, right? Do you guys have that all committed to memory? Probably not. And by the way, if you forget, it's here. Anybody can access that. So that's where that's headed. Clothing? You don't need to worry about clothing. Nobody really cares about logos. Like, it's important to you that you have a logo, but nobody really cares about logos. That's going to get dropped off at your house because of Amazon. And you're going to be able to get, there's a company called Snell, I think it is. Is anybody familiar with this company, Snell? What is Snell all about? It's golf ball. They direct deliver. What do you think that golf ball's coming in at? Per dozen. About $23 a dozen is what they're coming in at now. It's just exactly like, it's like Meisterbrow. Do you guys remember Meisterbrow? Tastes like Budweiser, only costs less. This is the Snell. It plays just like a Titleist, only costs less. Everybody's going to go there. Balls are going to get dropped off at doors. Gloves are going to get dropped off at doors. Clothing and apparel, that's going to get dropped off at doors. Golf shoes are going to get dropped off at doors. What does that tell you about your golf shop? What does that tell you if you're at a place where the club owns the golf shop? What does that tell you about their budgets? What does it tell you about where this whole thing goes? What does it tell you about the PGA of America? What is the one thing that separates us from everybody else? What do you think it is? The one talent that we have that separates us from other people. Playing? Okay. Does our ability to play answer the what's in it for me category? Are you a better golfer because I can play well or I can't play well? Does my ability to play affect you? Probably not. So playing doesn't matter. What else? Yeah.
Hard-won reputation as a professional.
Hard-won reputation as a professional. Do you think your reputation as a professional is going to force a club or company to go, you know what, I'm going to pay him $100,000, even though I can get this retired cop who's got a pension coming in at 50, and I could pay him $20,000.
I do think it makes a difference. I do think that my reputation as a PGA professional will give me some advantage, including some value in that negotiation. My experience, the experience of the PGA, the education that I've had via that, all of these things that the PGA is putting to me should add up to some value.
What kind of car do you drive?
I drive a Honda.
Would you drive a Mercedes?
Sure.
Why don't you?
Because it's a little expensive.
No kidding.
Right.
That's the point. Like a club would love to have you, but if they've only got, here's our budget. And by the way, in our...
It's going to be the deciding factor, but I think that, if there are other factors and it's just about the money...
It's not, there's not another deciding factor.
Well, then I guess professional...
Look at what's going on at Old Oaks. Look at what's going on at the clubs in our area that we've lost. What do you think is the greatest part of a budget in the golf professional space? What's the biggest part of the budget? Labor. It's not like what's going on in your grounds and greens, right? You could just, you know what, we're not going to water the rough. We'll save a couple $100,000. You want to cut budgets? What do you cut? Salaries. So as much as I'd love to say, I would love to agree with you. But if you do that, you're going to be an Uber. That's what it's going to be. It sucks to hear it, but that's just the way it is. Because why? Because there's going to be a threshold. This PXG thing that's come out, $300 a club. There'll be somebody that can afford $300 a club, but the vast majority isn't. And then who's going to buy it a second time? Like, great to get it the first time, but who's going to get it the second time? Who wants to pay $100,000 to join a club and then $20,000 a year plus food minimums when candidly you can go over to Ferry Point, play more rounds, and it costs you literally nothing compared to that expense? And that number is going to come down because somebody doesn't want to pay $75 for a dozen balls, and they don't want to pay $2,000 for a set of irons, and they don't want to pay $500 for a driver. And the driver company goes, you know what? We're not selling as many drivers. We have to lay off these people like what happened at TaylorMade. We're going to lay off all these people, and we want to stay alive. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to bring them to the people without that. And I don't have to pay my sales rep, and then I don't have to pay the head pro. I can put it in their hands at a lot less. That's what it looks like. Don't shoot the messenger. That's what it looks like. Yeah, John.
Hasn't Hopkins Golf kind of initiated that?
Everybody has.
How are they doing?
That wedge that you see Aaron Oberholzer using on Golf Channel, you've seen that wedge that's just an alien just 20 years later? That thing sold 70,000 in 1 month. How are they doing? Do you guys know Martin Chuck? Ask Martin Chuck how his Tour Striker iron is doing. That's how they're doing. Really well. Really well. So that brings me back to, what is it that what's the asset that we have?
Make people feel good about themselves.
Making people feel good about themselves?
They want to be
So
around
psychologists can do that too, right? Do you think that you, because you're a PGA professional, and I think the world of you, you're going to go out and you're going to make everybody feel really good, and that's going to make them go, you know what? I love James, and I want to keep James here, so I'm not going to send my kid to school. At that school I want to send him to because I want James to be able to pay for his.
Give them a reason to support you.
So what's that reason?
A passion for the game.
Teaching. Holy. Teaching. That's what we do. And if you take teaching as our asset and couple that with 4 out of 5 people don't take golf lessons, do you see this opportunity? So let me tell you a story. 2 shoe salesmen find out that there's an island with 10,000 people on it, and they want to go down and they want to sell shoes down there on the island. So the first guy goes down, he gets there, and he sees nobody has any shoes. He calls up his boss and he says, "Boss, I just got to the island. First couple people I met, nobody had any shoes on. I decided to ask other people, nobody owns any shoes. This is not a great situation. I need to come home. We're not going to sell any shoes." And he goes home. The second rep goes down to the same island. Second he gets there, gets the same information, calls up his boss and he says, "Boss, we're going to need a whole pile of shoes. There's nobody down here with a pair of shoes." Now, as far as I'm concerned, we as instructors have been that first salesman. And we need to shift our mindset and be the second one. 80% of the people that play the game of golf don't take a golf lesson. Now, why don't they take a golf lesson? It's too expensive. So, here's some information for you. Students report that they stop taking lessons because they are too expensive. Lesson takers have historically paid an average of $66 an hour. Golfers report that their perceived value of instruction is $50 an hour. That's their perceived value. In other words, if it was $50 an hour, I'd take a golf lesson. On average, we're charging about $125 an hour. Up here in the Northeast, we're probably a little bit more than that. Now what do you think? How am I going to deliver a $50 product to a person that wants to pay $50? How am I going to do it? Online. Which now brings us back to, I got to be entertaining, I got to have the right color, I got to know all this stuff we talked about because I'm in this other space. Which needs you need to be able to understand how to talk to a camera. I'll give you an idea of the importance of what comes out of your mouth. When I talk to the camera, I use the word "you" all the time. What you at home are struggling with is you're slicing the ball. And what comes up to me from people is, I feel like you're talking to me. They don't know why. I feel like you're talking to me. Like I feel like when you say what you say, that's exactly what I have to work on. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that I'm using the word "you" instead of the average amateur. What most people struggle with You better understand how to engage that thing. Because that thing now opens up the world for you. Here's what I think jobs are going to look like in the future. Now, I know the Met section is a little bit different, but that does not mean that we are isolated enough to where it's never going to happen, because we've seen it happen. We've seen courses around here close. What is it? Island Hills, Indian Hills? Island Hills. Ridgeway. Minnesiongo just closed down. What was the other one in, there was another one in Mamaroneck. What's that? Hampshire. They closed for a bit and then opened up again, and they're going through a reevaluation and all these different, because at some point that real estate has a value. And so what do you think happens in the PGA? What do you think happens in the PGA of America? Philosophically, the PGA of America, yeah, go ahead, John.
I think as an organization, one, we need to start waking up.
Yes, exactly, which is why this was so important, which is why I asked you at the very start, why are you here? Because I think you all need to wake up. And I'm the alarm clock.
I would criticize time and time again within this section from some of our section leaders on the QT about my idea that, in which I said when I was at the fall meeting, that we need the instruction division. We are losing so many candidates who do not want to join the PGA because they don't want to go through the existing program, which gets back to your idea. Why I went into instruction full time is because I thought the one thing I had that not a lot of other people had was information and the ability to know what I don't know and continually seek new information. That's what's made me successful. And I can go to work every day and take care of all my needs. As an organization, we refuse for some reason to change that thought process.
Because, you know why? Because what we're selling is the idea that the reason why people aren't playing golf is because it's too hard, takes too long, and costs too much money. That's the idea of what we're selling. And we are married to it. Married to it.
We were married to yesterday.
You bet. We're married to this idea that the way we're going to grow the game of golf is to get more people playing the game of golf. And if we grow the game of golf by getting more people to play the game of golf, that the game will thrive. That is also a load of you know what. Where do you think golf is going? Where do you think the game of golf is headed? Even worse. Indoors. You know what's going on in the simulator world? Let me tell you what's going on in the simulator world. You guys have simulators, you hit balls into it, it spits out information just like we have on the show. Do you know what the simulator company is doing? They're figuring out how to simulate everything, including simulating going to the grocery store. So you get in your simulator and you start going, oh, I'll take one of those, I'm going to have one of those, do one of those, and then who's going to drop it off? Amazon. And then they're going to simulate playing tennis, and you're in your simulator, boom, you're hitting a tennis ball, and it goes into this thing, and a ball shoots out, and into the thing, and a ball shoots out. That's what simulator companies are doing. Yeah, Carl.
First of all, PGA is definitely moving in that direction. They're looking at a player or teacher division. It's going a little slow.
A little slow.
It's going a little slow, but
Just
just look
wait,
at it.
I have an issue. This is not our centennial.
Yeah.
100 years.
Hey, we could spend a lot of time debating the outcome of this. I can tell you right now that I've met with the PGA of America.
Yeah.
I've shared these thoughts with the PGA of America. I'm with you. And I've sat on this and done the edge thing and sat with Ed, I've argued, Tom and I did it.
It's slow, but it's
No, I understand.
Keep saying.
Here's what's going to happen.
I'm saying,
Don't give up.
obsolete is more difficult than having to do division.
Here's what's going to happen.
I mean, look.
Go.
We've come a long way. This section we're doing great. We used to build golf clubs. Now we sell them. Things are changing. We're adapting. We're doing well. My question is this. We've clearly gone from our branding and marketing has been by word of mouth. You go out and play a tournament, you give a lesson, somebody goes out, they tell other people this guy's really good, this and that, this was word of mouth. Now we're going into, obviously, more presence online. My question is, if you're, some of us have a private club, and you want to expand your brand and go online, how do you do it when you throw up a video, and you tell your members, yeah, I'm going to start putting stuff on YouTube, and they're going to scroll down and see 20 people totally disagree with what you said, and say, and this might, let's say I put a video and people start attacking you for what you say. How is that helping the brand?
Well, here's what I would tell you. I go back to the other thing. If you're putting stuff online, you haven't done any of this training, and I know that you've done the Dale Carnegie thing, so I'm with you on the presentation skills, which is something that you all need to get. But what I would do is I would look at it not as an affront to your lack of knowledge or a disagreement with their knowledge, but more look at it as my presentation of whatever it is I'm presenting is horrible. See, we all think that the most important thing we can do is get the information, and it's not. The most important thing you can do is learn how to present your information. That's the most important thing. You miss the boat. And so what I'm telling you is that it would be like if I stood up in front of this thing with really bad colors, no skills in speaking into a camera, and then talk to you. Like, why do you not like Chris Christie?
So then you said the content could be great, but the rest of it's terrible, so you're going nowhere.
Because people are only processing 7% of what's coming out of your mouth.
Presentation's good, content doesn't matter that much.
It's like giving a golf lesson to somebody and the guy's telling you, man, I just keep taking the putter path, it's going too far inside. You go, no, I want you to control the face. And they go, yeah, but I can't. And it's like having that fight with them. The face is the most important part in putting. We all know it. So concern yourself with the face. And then let's maybe talk a little tempo, because we have to know what the putter head is doing as far as speed. And then let's focus on what's happening with the distance the ball's traveling and control that. And what they're talking about is something totally different. Because what you're hearing is what you perceive. And what you perceive is all these little things that are happening about hand movement and your inability to speak to the camera and your inability to be engaging and your inability to speak down to it so people can process the information. Because part of that too is interpretation. And once you get into interpretation, that's why you have wars. Because people interpret information incorrectly.
I guess it's a leap of faith because you're good at it.
But I've studied it.
People still question on with this stuff.
But I don't care about that. But the point is, you know what they do? You know what they do? They watch me. And you know who that makes happy?
Right.
Well, you have your following now. You have the masses following, which is...
But that's because, see, what you see is what I started in 2009. But what I started in 2009 started like in 1990. Because I was tired of watching somebody trying to grow the game of golf in a boring fashion. I didn't care about their information. And then I studied presentation skills. Why is that important? When I make a presentation, I make a point of moving because I know that you guys have an 8-second, basically there's an 8-second span in how long you will concentrate. So if I don't do something to move your mind, you will go to sleep. And if I'm in a different arena that's not narrow and long, but wide and thin like this, I'm going to spend a lot of time moving over here and moving over here. I'm going to try to make eye contact with every single person in the room. Because that's how I know that you're going to be paying attention. And that's how I know that you're going to be listening to what I have coming on. I also understand how to use silence. So when I ask you a question and I sit here like this, the silence has a way of making all of us anxious. Because nobody's speaking. Somebody's supposed to speak, because I'm at a thing where somebody's supposed to be speaking, and they're not speaking. Should I speak? Am I speaking? Is it time to speak? Right? But I've studied it. While you guys have been busy trying to figure out the hub path, I've been busy trying to figure out how to generate information. I don't care. You get it? You get it? There's also an important part of using humor. Humor is a really important thing. Doesn't mean you have to be the funniest person in the room. Just have to know when to use your humor. These are all things that are important in being a good presenter. And what you have to now understand is, let's just look 5 years out. I said look 5 years out. What does the golf space look like? I think it rewinds to 1950. That's what I think it looks like. I think it's 1950, Ben Hogan playing the tour, working at Hershey Country Club, giving some golf lessons and going out and playing golf. I think there's going to be a person sitting in a shop that's not going to answer a phone. They call them cord cutters. Has anybody heard of cord cutting? Cord cutting is the number. Raise your hand if you've got a landline in your house. Raise your hand if you have a landline in your house. Okay. Now that number is dropping significantly to the point where they think in the future, close, that number's going to be like 0. You're going to have something that's going to be sitting on something that you're going to call a phone, but it won't look like this. They're working on different things within the phone. There's wrist bracelets that are sitting on hands now that you just hit something in your phone, just basically holograms down your forearm. Has anybody ever been to the Consumer Electronics Show? Anybody done that? It's probably a good idea. You've gone, John?
Yes.
How crazy is that?
It's the future.
It's the future.
It's like a walk into the future.
They have now single-person drones. You can get into a drone, which is French for a helicopter, and go up in the air with a 300-mile radius at 300 feet above the ground. You can do that. That's coming. Has anybody ever heard of the Jetsons? What it is. It's the Jetsons. These are all things that are happening. So if you sit here and you are solely focused on how can I be on the tee longer, you are like the world is passing you by. Because that's the way the world is headed. Now, in the Met section, I happen to believe that this, I call it the tsunami. We've seen the tidal wave, right? But the tsunami is what you worry about. I mean the earthquake. We've seen the earthquake, and now it's the tsunami. And the tsunami is going to be what happens when all this goes like this, and people don't, like, remember the tsunami that happened down wherever, and all the animals ran to higher ground? If people knew that when tsunamis occurred that animals run to higher ground, they were paying attention to the animals running to higher ground, they would have gone, something bad's going to happen, I'm going to go follow the animals. They didn't know that. They just kind of sat there on the beach, and all of a sudden, whew, their world changed. That's what's happening. That's why this is so important. That's why you guys need to figure out this game. Because to me, if you don't, you're going to end up in the water. And it's really hard to breathe. Get me? Questions? Yeah.
How do you see this boding well for these interns that are coming out of the programs? Half of them, probably 80% of them, have no interest in teaching, never taught, no interest in becoming a teacher. I think what's made a lot of us successful, we came from teaching/playing backgrounds, and that's where our value added is to the clubs. I mean, we could become, obviously, because of the amount we funded to be a head professional club, but I see the future of these interns only becoming $30,000 employees for the rest of their lives.
If they have a job at all.
They got nothing else to offer.
If they have a job. So the question is, where do you see these interns, these people graduating from these PGM programs, where do you see that going? I see PGM programs are going to start closing up shop.
And why is the PGA still maybe not sort of slowing down on these programs?
Because I think the PGA of America philosophically believes that the key to everybody's success is getting people to play more golf. And so what they're saying is, we've got to teach you to come to us. And the world is saying, you have to come to me. It's a completely different philosophical mindset. Our world is right here. And we do whatever we want right here. That's what happens. And the PGA of America is saying, Hey, we just got to get them to come to our doors, and when they get to our doors, we'll grow the game. Not so much. Yeah.
Sorry to keep asking a question.
No, this is why we're here. This to me is a discussion.
I'm a subscriber of these online subscriptions.
Revolution Golf and all that.
Yeah, but tennis ones as well.
Perfect.
Of other sports. So, but how do you see it where all of a sudden 1,000 of us start to create these online membership programs with content? Do you see it then?
I see being able to, like the people that are building their subscription, they'll give away, like, send a video lesson. So for example, let's go back to the question I asked you about the $50 an hour thing. Let's say it was $30. So I'm going to give you a $30 lesson. All you got to do is take your video and send it to me. Now, how long do you think it takes you to look at a golf swing and know what you have to do to fix it? How long do you think it takes?
Play it once.
So 5 minutes?
Yeah.
So let's say it's 5 minutes. And then how long do you think it takes you to give a recommendation to the individual of what they need to do?
Another 5 minutes.
So maybe it's a 10-minute experience. So in comes the question, you look at the swing, you go, oh, you know what? Okay, his arms are collapsing, so we need to give him something to get his arms to stay extended to create some width. So here's a little drill with a floaty, and it's already recorded. And so you sit there and you go, okay, Jim, this is what we need to do, blah, 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 you're blah, 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 and here's a video. Now that takes you, that whole experience takes you 10 minutes to do. Now let's imagine that you've got a whole list of that. And you're getting $30 for every one of those. And in an hour, you can knock off 6 of them. Now your hourly rate has gone to $300. Is it $30? It's $180. So you're at $180. What do you get for a lesson right now?
Close to that.
Is it that, or is it less than that? Or is it more than that?
It's
So $180 an hour. Okay, now you're above the mean. Now, let's say for the sake of argument that you've got so many that you've hired somebody to help you out, and you're paying them $100 an hour. And they have the same ability level because there's so many of us that are out there that I can get somebody at $100 an hour. They go, sure, I'll do $100 an hour. You go to Dothan, Alabama, to a really talented teacher down there, and they're getting $50 an hour. You go, I'm going to pay you $100. Then they go, where do I sign up? Now they do that. Now in comes another, that's an additional $80. So now your hourly rate is now up to $260. Now you got another guy. And another guy. And they tell 2 friends. That's where it goes. That's where I see it going. That's what I'm trying to position myself for.
No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean,
because that's the way people are consuming their information. So rather than us trying to get people to come to us, we got to go to them. Because that's what the world is doing. Takeout. Who orders takeout food? Who goes to go drive and pick up the food that they're ordering up? Or would you rather have somebody drop it at your door? Because it drops at my door because my day is sandwiched. Not only am I doing all the things I'm doing, but I got 2 little guys that want my hour time too. And that's an hourly rate. Like, I'm going to pay their hourly rate, whatever that hourly rate is, right? And we all have that. We all have responsibilities. So if I can get Frankie Louis to drop off some pasta for me, I'm all in. That's how we work. And you have to be able to look at all the things that are happening in the world and go, okay, what are people doing in the world, and how can I fit my little whatever it is into that? Because if you're looking at it another way, you're going to get run over by the tsunami. And it's really important. Yeah.
So that's great. Think about for building your brand, you're taking the human element out of it.
Yep.
So to build your brand, you need the human element, you need to be approachable, you need to look good.
Yep.
And yet you're saying you can go over, you don't even have to meet you, you take a lesson online.
Yep.
How do you approach, what comes first, how do you approach getting to the second stage of that online?
Well, okay, so first of all is you have to get people to be intrigued with your brand, right? So that's all that extraneous stuff that needs to be involved in it. And then when you get to, well, how do I now flip that and get people to sign up? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, building your brand is one thing, and then talking about where it's going to go in terms of online. It's very hard to get to that stage.
Why?
Trying to build when you already got your brand built, like yourself, it's easy for you to transition to online. But for some of us, it's going to be more difficult, and we have to build upon building our brand the old-fashioned way.
It's only difficult if you think it's difficult. It's only difficult if you think it is. But all you need to do it is to take something that you think is particularly good, stuff it out there, understand the Twitter space. It's called link and leverage. Link and leverage. So the link is what will ever bring you to something where you can lever it. So for instance, I'm going to tweet out that I'm going to be talking about getting rid of your slice. Right? And there's going to be a friend of yours that's going to have a slice and they're going to go out and watch it. Or you're going to Periscope it, or you're going to do something like that. And then it gets to him. And it was great because you were funny and you were engaging and he got something out of it and he liked your shirt and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you had a BMW parked behind and he liked the car, which that's where advertising is also going to end up going too. So all it needs to do is it just goes from one person to another person to another person, all of a sudden, boom. And if you don't think that's the case, ask Andrew Rice. There's another guy down in North Carolina named Herman Williams who did a beautiful job, and you wouldn't know Herman at all. I knew Herman just because he worked for a buddy of mine. He did a wonderful job just building his brand online. You don't have to. That's the thing, like you guys, there's this whole thought that, and it's true, I've got a first down, no doubt. I got a first down, you guys are on the 20, I'm on the 30. I definitely have a head start, no doubt. But that doesn't mean that you can't be successful. Yeah, John.
You mentioned that 4 out of 5 golfers are taking golf lessons. What are you doing, and what do you think we could do to get some of those 4 out of 5 to start taking lessons?
Well, where do you think those 4 out of 5 are seeking the information? Because it's not that they're not seeking the information. It's just that they're not paying for the lesson. What do you think they're doing?
They're getting it through publications or online.
That's what they're doing. So we're our own separate, you guys are each individually Golf Magazine, Golf Digest, Golf Channel. Each individually, that's what you are. One of the things that I'm trying to do in my brand growing business, by the way, is I'm trying to morph into the coach aspect. I think one of the reasons why people don't take golf lessons from us is because we call ourselves teachers. And if you go back through the history of your schooling, you probably have a few teachers that you really liked, and then there were a lot more that you didn't like. And the whole teaching aspect was really nothing more than somebody standing up and spewing information, unrehearsed or rehearsed, doesn't matter, at your brain, not in any way, shape, or form factoring how you process information. They will not have gone to a class on how to present. Just ask any school teacher. So we're thinking about sending our kids to some schools, right? And these are my guys. So I've got a bulldozer. It's a big bulldozer, and I'm going to run over whatever's in my way if I don't get the answers that I'm looking for. And so I sit down in these schools and I go, what are you doing to build leadership from your kids? Because I think leadership skills are really important. And by the way, I think the PGA of America does, and I've told them this, an awful job at teaching us how to be leaders. I think they do an awful job, by the way, on teaching us how to interview for a job. I think they do an awful job on teaching us how to interview people to work with us. Like, I think back to this thing about what are we doing with the kids in the PGM program. I think our whole education system in the PGA of America needs some serious revamping. And I've spoken with them about it. I think we need to be involved in Dale Carnegie classes. Anybody taken a Dale Carnegie class? Okay. How was that experience for you?
Tremendous.
Has anybody taken a Dale Carnegie class that was bad? Raise your hand if you've taken a Dale Carnegie class that was bad. Why wouldn't we all take Dale Carnegie classes? Did you do it online or in person?
No, it was actually an FPGA event years back. It was pretty invigorating.
It's the way it's supposed to be. You learn how to be a better leader. You learn how to make an impactful presentation. You learn how to communicate better. This guy's been around for hundreds of, like this program, the Dale Carnegie community's been around for hundreds of years. Successful. What do? We communicate. Let's spend a lot of time figuring out the art of communication. We don't do that. Yeah.
I think one of the things to do is also try to find common ground with whoever you're working with that would somehow make the person more comfortable and able to listen a little better.
So his response is that we need to be able to make it more comfortable for the people that we're speaking to. The fact of the matter is that if you have kids, count the number of text messages that they have in a day versus the number of phone calls they have in a day, and what you're going to find out is that no, they don't. Because they think communication is text messaging. They don't need to feel, these millennials, they don't need to feel this interaction. In fact, it's intimidating.
I have to.
Right, of course you do. And do they text you?
Okay.
I had a guy tell me that one of the coolest things was these emojis. Do you guys do these emojis? So apparently the kids love the emojis because they can create their own emoji and then they can just send these text messages that, and if you think about it, you're just sending this information into space and assuming that somebody got it. And it makes them feel warm and connected. That's what you're dealing with. That's why, back to your question, like, you have to be engaging, but in the end, you don't have to be engaging. Because it's their interpretation of engagement. Anybody else? Yeah.
I have probably less than 1% of 1% of the lessons who will call me.
Do you have an online booking system? Do you have an online booking system?
No.
What do you have? You mean when people are booking a lesson, they're going to send you a text message or an email or something like that?
Right. The reason I stuck with that is I want it more personal, and then I respond right away. I mean, I'll respond within a minute, and they love the response. That's why they sent me the email or they sent me the text message. Nobody calls me or anything.
That you believe it or not, even though you're in front of most people, you're still a dinosaur.
I like being a dinosaur.
I know you do, but the fact of the matter is that your time is going to be precious. And if you start conditioning that mindset to get a text message from you right away, and all of a sudden you're starting to take away from the other things that you're trying to do, and it will happen. I'm telling you. When I first,
You'll be the first one I call.
it will happen. I hope you have time to call me. I don't think you're going to have time. I think you'll probably end up texting me. Yeah.
I tend to sort of, agree with them. One of the things that I enjoy the most is the developing relationships and develop
Absolutely.
trust between, personal level. But it seems like, the more like now, I have to try to have people trust more in my brand rather than myself. So that's a little bit of a, shift.
But here's the thing. Your brand is yourself. It's what you want yourself to be.
So that's a hard, little bit of a...
That's because you haven't thought about it.
Exactly.
You got to think about it. You literally got to sit down and you got to get a book and you got to write some stuff down about what you want to be. And there's a lot of stuff, by the way, that I didn't even get into this. I haven't even gotten into like a normal presentation on brand building. But I could share some information with you that would make you just go, you got to be kidding me. And this stuff is antiquated. This is 2 years old.
Where does most of that information come from, Michael?
It's online, research, talking to people. Just every chance I get, I'm trying to learn more about what, I had an interesting conversation with somebody shared. It was really, I found it fascinating. So you know how when you're a kid, the time just seems to take forever? Like the year that you were 15 and you couldn't wait to turn 16 to get your driver's license felt like that took a decade. And yet as we get older, years they just go through like weeks. And his answer to that was, as a kid, you live today. And as an adult, You start living in the future. And you're not spending a lot of time in the here and now. And as a result, time starts going really, really fast. And I spend the majority of my time basically in two spaces. I'm in the here with my kids, and then I'm in the future with my life. What am I doing? How do I see this going? Because I think the whole key to being successful in life, has anybody, there's a movie out now about the financial crisis that took place in the housing market.
Sure.
Did anybody, who's seen that movie? Now, that is a movie about people understanding the future. And as a result, a couple of people became extremely wealthy, but also, talk about their brand, they were viewed in a completely different light. Because they were able to predict something was going to happen and fight society or the entities around them, fight them from this, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, just wait and see. It's going to happen. And then it happens. To me, the art of success is the prediction of the future. I'm not getting into political stuff, but there's a fact that we have an issue with ISIS. That's an issue in our world right now. And if you go back to the time when our president said they were a JV team, and if he at that moment in time had said, listen, this is a potentially really damaging situation for the world, and we have to stop this right now, and he did, we probably would be living in a different space. Right now, to me, it's the bee's nest that turned into this huge nest, and now we're trying to put all the bees back in the nest. It's going to be really difficult. And I'm not getting into the political space, but I am telling you that the ability to predict the future is something that you need to spend time in figuring out what the future is going to look like. And you have to be able to take information that seems to be not significant or important in your space and put it together and understand how the jigsaw puzzle works. So you start paying attention to, okay, I need to make sure that I'm alive, that I have a job, that my family's going to be okay. My biggest fear in my life is losing my house. That's my biggest fear in my life. Because I don't ever want to have my children and my wife have to leave my house. So what I'm doing right now, like education, you get education. But the house, you got to pay for it. And so I'm doing everything I can to not have a mortgage. I don't care that money's cheap. I don't care it's 3% for me to get a mortgage, and I can borrow money at this, and I can invest and get 8%. There's a 5%. I could care less. What I'm not going to have happen is for somebody to come knocking on my door and go, Mr. Breed, it's time for you to vacate. That's my big fear. And so with that, I'm trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. I spend an inordinate amount of time trying to see what makes sense and how it's going to affect me individually, my family collectively, and then our association, our business, the game of golf. So here's another great one. Let's take the anchor band. What's the main reason why people say the anchor band is bad? It's going to make people leave the game. We're not going to be able to grow the game. That's what everybody says, right? Now, think about what causes growth in the game. How did anybody get into the game? I gave a lesson to Bo Jackson, who, by the way, is a specimen of a human being. Like, that is the single most perfect body. And I'm a happy heterosexually married man. But this body is ridiculous. So he comes out for this lesson, and I start talking to him, and I say, and he's the best athlete to walk, like, ever. And he's hitting it 7 irons. 200 yards, 195. And I go, Bo, how'd you get into the game? And this is the story that he tells, and this is the story that we hear. A friend of mine brought me out to the range. They gave me a 7 iron. I was hitting the ball, I couldn't hit the ball, it was going all over the place. And then I hit that one shot, and I was hooked. You guys heard that story? That's a popular story of how we get into the game. Here's the story you don't hear. It was a beautiful summer day. I was standing on the green. The ball was 3 feet from the hole. The cup was glistening in the sunlight. I hit this ball. It came off the face beautifully, rolled perfectly, and went into the cup, and I was hooked. You ever hear that story? Now, take that story, which you never hear, and apply it to the long putter. People don't come to the game of golf for putting. This isn't going to retard the growth of the game of golf. This has nothing to do with that. And don't let anybody convince you that it does, because it's wrong. It just sounds good. And why does it sound good? Because that's what we've heard. So we get the information, seems to make sense, and then we send it out this way. That's what we do. Because we take information for granted and we don't think about it. You guys know why a 35-inch putter is a 35-inch putter is the most popular putter in your store. You know why? Why, John? Because it fits in your bag. In this land of technical space and launch monitors and D-planes and hub paths and all these other things that nobody can even comprehend. Right? We have 35-inch putters in our shop because it won't slip down into the mouth of the bag. And the average length putter on the PGA Tour for a guy that's almost 6'1" is 34 1/4 inches. But yet for somebody coming in your shop that might be whatever, they're not 6'1", we're going to put them in a 35-inch putter because what the hell? That's what we're going to do. You just can't take information and just spew it out because, yeah, it's not the way it works. You got to think about things. You got to try to figure out, why is that way? What's going to happen? What does the space look like? That's what you got to do. That's what we have to do. That's what we're not doing in the PGA of America. Because what we're concerned about is, what does the club look like at the top of the swing? And are we using the ground forces correctly? Are we pushing out? You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, Charlie.
Compliment a couple questions. The golf swing. I don't know if you got that machine with the golf swing. It looks pretty darn good. Question being, how much do you feel the golf swing has improved since you've been doing the show? Is it important to you?
Thank you for saying that, because you and I have played golf when that golf swing wasn't looking so good. I spend a lot of time on it. I get to work every day 30 minutes before I'm going to teach. I hit balls for 30 minutes before I'm going to teach. I hit balls for 30 minutes. I carve out an hour and a half at lunch. I hit I hit for 30 minutes at that time at least. And then I may or may not try to hit balls after my day is done. And then I play golf with my wife on Saturday. Here's what I think. I'm not a better player, but I'm a better swinger. It doesn't matter. So when I'm doing all my stuff, it doesn't matter to the guy at home that my 6-iron goes 175 yards or if it goes 210 yards. They don't care about that. What they want is that ball is going down the line at that target. Because now my believability factor goes up, right? So I'm sitting there saying whatever I'm saying, blah, 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 blah. And then when I do it, I don't pay attention to what I just said. I just make my golf swing. Because I know if that ball goes straight, the only time where I pay attention is where I'm intentionally trying to curve it. Or maybe hit it high or hit it low. But if I'm talking about like how you're going to use the ground more effectively to hit the ball properly, I just go back to what I'm going to do in my golf swing. If the ball takes off and it goes at the target, God bless you. And that's what I concern myself with. Now, is it important? It's absolutely important. Why is it important? Because it gets back to the believability. See, I want to be approachable. I want to be believable. I don't want to make stuff up. And if I don't know it, I have no problem saying I don't know. There are a lot of people that have gone through life and they didn't know the answer to it. The problem is when you start making stuff up, like what we're seeing in this political forum, with people just, whatever it takes. And I can't operate that way. So for me, I know what I need to do to make the ball go kind of where I want it to go. But I appreciate that, and I think it's really important. I really do. And I think when you guys are doing what you're doing, you have to understand that there's a believability that they might think about this. One of the exercises, by the way, that I give people who are working with me on how to become better in this speaking space is to turn the volume off and watch what you do and see if the information that you're trying to get across, they could glean from what you're doing with your body language and what they're seeing with the ball flight. So if you ever, because one of the things that happens in my space is I've got left-handed people that are watching, so if I'm using left and right, it's backwards for them and they start. So if I have somebody that's left-handed, I just tell them to do one of two things. It sounds silly, but just turn backwards with a mirror to the television and watch it this way, and you'll get an idea. And then the second thing is turn the volume down. But you have to understand when you're doing that presentation stuff, that skill of being able to explain to people visually what's going on, because there's a guy sitting in a bar somewhere watching that, and I'm hoping that he can get information without listening to what's going on, because typically there's music being played or something else is being played. Okay? Yeah?
Thoughts, ideas, techniques of growing your brand outside of the game of golf. Like the PGA is looking at lapsed golfers and non-golfers.
So I'm trying to do that in my business. That's actually one of the reasons why we added Coach's Corner in the show, because one of the things that I want to do is I want to get into the motivational speaking space. And I'm doing more of that, so I've been successful at growing that, and that's by intent. And so what I would do is, if I was trying to, and I don't know what your goal is, but what I would do is I would recommend that everybody has their own web page, your own website. Do it on Facebook or just get one individually. And then on there, what you want to do is you want to have all the different things that you think are important. So maybe it's the golf swing, maybe it's club fitting, maybe it's whatever, but you have that in there. And then start a newsletter. And then in the newsletter, so what's the thing that you want to try to do? Is there one thing that you want to try to bridge your way into?
Instruction.
Okay, so you want to get into instruction. Then what I would do is I would have an instruction corner, right? And I would try to attack something specifically that you think is a problem. What I would also do, and what I encourage golf professionals to do, one of the things that I think we do a really bad job of when we talk about growing the game of golf, I think we do a terrible job of this. We know nothing about the history of our game. Literally nothing. And I'll tell you what I mean. Why is the hole 4 1/4 inches? Anybody know why it's 4 1/4 inches? Raise your hand if you think you know why it's 4 1/4 inches. Go ahead, John.
That was the size of the cutter they had.
That was the size of the what?
That was the size of the cup cutter they had.
The cup cutter.
The size of what they used to cut the cup.
It's the size that they used to cut the cup.
That was the size of the tool that was used to cut the hole in the ground.
Okay. Yeah.
Size of the bottom of a liter bottle of scotch.
Okay. Carl, you raise your hand? Nothing? Go ahead. Anybody else?
Doesn't that have something to do with the golf ball?
Nope, has nothing to do with the golf ball. Yeah, go ahead. Has nothing to do with the golf ball. Here's what happened. At St. Andrews, before there were cups, they had holes in the ground. And the hole got broken. And these two guys that are playing went looking around for something to put into the cup because they thought, this is crazy. I don't know, maybe they had other hole issues. And they found a pipe. And it had been broken off. And they cut the pipe, took the thing, stuck it in the ground. And it's been that size. It is that random. Stuck it in the ground. Why do we have, where's the 14 club rule come from? Yeah.
Michael, it was something to do with Bobby Jones and somebody else, that Bobby Jones wanted 12 and the other guy wanted 16, so they said, you know what, let's just do 14.
Really close. There was a guy named Lawson Little. Has anybody ever heard of Lawson Little? So Lawson Little, for 2 years in a row, won the British Amateur and the British Open, 34 and 35. And he won those with 30 plus clubs, 7 of which were left-handed. So he's playing in a Walker Cup at Pine Valley, and Tony Torrance. Does everybody know Tony Torrance? Sam Torrance, Tony Torrance? So Tony Torrance and Bobby Jones are sitting in the parking lot, after Lawson Little has done what Lawson Little has done in this Walker Cup. And as the story goes, Bobby, how many clubs did you have when you won the Grand Slam? Well, I had 16. How many did you have? Well, I had 12. 14. Done. Let's keep 14. 14 is the number. 1938, it was adopted by the USGA. 1939, it was adopted by the RNA. Now, here's what I would tell you. What I would tell you is you want to get people like enjoying the game, growing the game, know the history. I guarantee you that every one of you knows what your mother and father did or do. I guarantee you that every one of you knows what your brothers or sisters did or do. You probably know what your grandparents did. You might even know your heritage of where you came from. And that information is going to be important when you're sitting down asking your spouse to fall in love with you. And you share this information. Well, this is where we came from. We went over here. And by the way, getting somebody to fall in love with you is just history. Yeah, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. When I was this, I did this and this and that. We don't know our history. We are the stewards of the game of golf, and we don't know our history. This idea that the game is too hard, or it takes too long, or it's too expensive, believe me, sit on a plane, on a JetBlue plane, and fly to Orlando on a whatever day, to all the people going to go see Mickey, and all the parents that are going to go spend a lot of money and spend a lot of time and have a lot of headaches, and see the reactions of all the families then, and then get on the plane when they return and see how different it is. The number of kids crying when they come back home because they miss Mickey and they want to stay. And what we do is we go, oh, it's too hard, it costs too much money. It's not. That's what we're doing. And then we settle for that, and we go, yeah, this is the way it is. It's kind of the way it is. That's the way it is. So here's another story on the settling for the way it is thing. Some of you may have heard this story, but it happens to be one of my favorites. So this guy's married to this woman. And their first Christmas, she makes ham. She cooks ham. Have you guys heard this story? Has anybody heard this story? She cooks ham. The ham comes out, and both ends are cut off the ham. And the guy looks at it, he goes, sweetheart, both ends of the ham are cut off the ham. And she goes, oh, that's the way you cook ham. That's the way my mother cooked ham. He goes, but I grew up, my mother didn't cook ham. Well, she's cooking it the wrong way. That's not the way you cook it. You've got to cut the ends off the ham, cook the ham the right way. So he goes, okay. So now, I'm going to talk to Mom about that. So, sure enough, Easter rolls around. Just a short time later, he sees her, he goes, Mom, your daughter is fantastic. She's the best wife I ever could have asked. She cooked ham for us on Christmas. It was the best ham I've ever had. But she cut the ends off the ham. And I've never seen ham cooked that way. She goes, well, that's the way you cook ham. That's the way my mother cooked ham. She's like, I got to go to your mother? Yep, you got to go to Grandma. So, a couple years goes by, and he's now a parent. He sees Grandma. They're sitting there in her house in the kitchen, and they're talking. And he says, your granddaughter's the best granddaughter going, and your daughter's phenomenal. Like, I couldn't be happier in this family. Look at our beautiful child. It's unbelievable. What a gift. I have to ask you a seemingly non-important question, but it's been driving me nuts for 2 years now. First Christmas that I had with your granddaughter, she cooked ham, and she cut both the ends off the ham. Why do you, and she said that her mom did it, your daughter, and then your daughter said you do it. Why do you cut the ends off the ham? Oh, she says, come over here and look at my oven. You see my stove? It's only that wide. I don't cut the ends off. It won't fit in. That's what we are if we don't seek information. You must seek information in all aspects of everything. As you start trying to understand what's going to happen with the game, with the instruction space in the game, look at it as this is an opportunity. Look at it as a chance for you to teach somebody in Japan, somebody in China. My number one goal right now is to grow the PGA of America by reaching outside of America. That's my goal. My goal, why are we just limited in the PGA of America to people being American or in America to be a PGA of America professional? We offer people all the opportunity to come to our instructional. We don't have anything that says you can't come to this if you're not a PGA professional. Is anybody not a PGA professional in here right now? Perfect. So, but the point is that we don't do that. So why would we just limit that? Why wouldn't we let Canadians be a member of the PGA of America? What's happening with the Olympics? So as we start to lose people in America in the PGA of America, we can gain people outside of America in the PGA of America. Why would we want to limit that? And the way we do that is through education and instruction, because instruction is the only asset that we have as golf professionals. Anybody can run a tournament. Club fitting, while you think it's going to be important, it's not going to be that important, because manufacturers are going to insist they're not important, and they're going to give you 30 days back to send it if you don't like it. And they'll re-chrome it, and they'll take the shafts and they'll shoot them, because everything can be done, and that's the way it's going to go. They'll even do it with bounce on wedges. That's where it's going to go. Yeah, John.
Comment overall. So we were talking about it earlier, our 100th anniversary.
Yep.
Our annual meetings will be here in New York City.
Yep.
The PGA of America was founded here.
Yep.
As I mentioned, do we have any initiatives that we should be working on to bring to the meeting in the fall? And if not, at this point, should we be looking at something?
I would say, if you ask my opinion of this, this is what I would say. I would say that's probably an educational committee thing. And I would also say that that's probably Jeff's issue, maybe Charlie. We do something with our board, figure out if the board wants to try to do something like that. But what I would also say is that I don't think that that's the right place to introduce the initiatives that we think are important. I think the place to introduce things that we think are important are in a closed door environment where we can say to people, this is what we think is going on.
Should we be doing something to impact that?
I think, well, look, I think, you know, if you look at what the Met PGA is.
I get emails and texts from everybody in the country, and everybody who's not in that section wants to be.
Of course.
We're just like, we're above every, not because I say it or you say it or Charlie or Jeff says it, but everybody looks at us as the leading section, place to be.
And what I would say is that I do agree with that. I do think the Metropolitan PGA, I think we're trailblazers, and I think we think in the future. I really do. And I think we've also been steadfast in the principles of what the PGA professional is all about, which is teaching and playing. And I think that's an important part of what we do as golf professionals in this. And I don't think that should change, but I do think that it's going to change, because I think the playing aspect of it is going to become less important. I think the teaching aspect is going to be more important. So, but that would be the way I would handle it if I was in that. And again, that's what I've attempted to do. What I've attempted to do, and look, I've got a little say in this game, right? I'm a guy that kind of represents the PGA of America, and I embrace that. And the PGA of America has done a nice job in asking me things that I think are important. And I'm not bashful. Because like I said, I'm okay. I'm worried about you guys. And you guys, there's 28,000 of you guys. And that number is going down and down and down and down. And there's people that are losing jobs, and there's families that are ending up out of their house and in cars. And that, honestly, that bothers me. Because it can be solved. And the way it can be solved is by us thinking about all this stuff that we're sharing today. Which you guys, I mean, has anybody ever sat in this conversation and all of the educational things that you've done? Have you ever sat in a forum like this or a conversation like this? Has anybody done that? That's my point. This shouldn't be the first day. Much the same way as when we did the interviewing process thing over at James's place at Appo a couple of years ago. That shouldn't be the first time that happens. And I'm by no means an authority. There are people that know way more than I do about all this stuff. we ought to be like seeking all that. Yeah.
Michael, I lived in Japan many years ago, and I remember I visit driving ranges all over the city, and I talk to people that never played golf on a golf course, but have played golf for 10 years.
Of course.
Do you see the development of Top Golf and that becoming more rampant here?
I had a conversation with a guy at Top Golf who's down in Texas. I talked to him yesterday. Yeah, I think that's going to happen. No doubt.
The social factor, along with being able to play that social side that goes with the drinking.
I think there's a number of reasons. I think there's a number of reasons why that's going to happen, but it's welcoming. The question is do we call that golf? Right. So if you call a stick and ball game golf, is Top Golf golf? To me, my definition of golf is you stand on the first tee, you hit a ball, and you hit it until you knock it into a hole, and then you go to the second hole. That's golf. Hitting golf balls is a different issue. Stick and ball games, that's where this whole conversation of the history of the game of golf. And again, everybody said, well, when did golf start? Well, some people think that it started back in 1200. Some people think it actually goes back to China in 600. But those are all stick and ball games. So is Top Golf golf? Or are you merely hitting a golf ball with a golf club? And so the answer is, I don't know. I think that's an individual, each individual has to make up their own mind as to what they think that is. But I do think that is one of the ways that we can grow the game. So I think people will get addicted to that hitting of the ball and then try to understand how to do it. Now, whether they take it to a golf course or whether they take it to a simulator, that's a different animal. But I do think that Top Golf is fantastic. And I know people that are not in Top Golf that are trying to launch similar products. And so I think we're going to see a lot of this. Anybody else? Now, one of the other things that you all can do in your own little arenas here that will prepare you for this other stuff, you have to get, one of the things we didn't talk about is experience in front of the camera. You need to get experience in front of the camera in order for you to figure out whether you're engaging. It'll be uncomfortable at first. You're going to stand in front of the thing, you're going to do a tip, you're going to turn it on, you're going to go, that was brutal. And it is, and it will be until it's not. And then when it's not, then you can start doing stuff. And here are the things that I would recommend doing. We all play golf with people when we go out on a Saturday or Sunday. You're playing with some people, and we all have our phones with us. And you go out on and you play with somebody that's got a really bad bunker problem. They scull it or whatever. It doesn't matter, whatever it is they do. Take your phone, videotape the person in the bunker, right? Then you just put together a little thing. Just a little video for yourself. Hey, Brad, I saw you in the bunker. I know you're having some problems with this. Here's the video that we've attached of you. Here's the drill I want you to do in order for you to improve your bunker stuff. When you get in there, I'm noticing that you really don't have that wedge opened as much as you should. And by the way, you probably are going to be better off with a 56-degree wedge instead of going in there with your pitching wedge. These are going to be things that I think are going to help you. And then once you get in there, let's really focus on what's happening with your wrist position. And you come in here and you hit the shot. And boom, you send it to them. Now you're getting experience standing in front of a camera. You're also creating some really goodwill with your membership, and it's probably going to lead to a lesson. One of the other things that we did at Sunningdale, and again, you got to forgive me because I haven't been in this space for a while. I know that there are handicap computers, at least there used to be handicap computers in the men's or ladies' locker rooms or sometimes in the golf shops. Do you all still have that? Okay, now, here's what we did at Sunningdale. You know that MGA logo that's sitting right on that handicap computer? That's just a screensaver. So what we did was we took that screensaver down and we put a 2-page instructional tip in there that was just, everybody's going to go to that, they're going to enter their scores. So rather than seeing the MGA computer and benefiting the MGA computer, what they did was they went and they saw Mario Guerra giving them a chipping lesson. Or they saw Karen Noble giving them a putting lesson. And it's just 2 pages, never more than 2 pages. It's just a 2-page thing. Because they're going to catch it on one page or the other. Once you have 3, then it makes the whole thing a pain in the ass and it takes too long. Again, this goes back to how the brain processes. So this would go back to this question that you asked about how you're going to be able to develop your instructional thing. This is one of the ways that you can do that. Just get into that MGA thing, put that instructional stuff in there, and then that's going to sell your product. And it's also going to give you some experience of standing in front of a camera. Even though it's a still camera, it's still getting you to think about what you're doing and organize your thoughts in a very succinct way. And that those are two things that we did very, very successful for us. Somebody had their hand raised. Yeah.
I had an opportunity to work with the local channel, community local channel.
Yep.
But there is no pay.
So what?
But would it be a good place to start?
So here's a couple other things that I would share with you. One of them is I have a motto that I live by, and the motto is, if you can't invest in yourself, don't ask others to invest in you. Which is to John's point about constantly trying to gain information and always working on getting smarter and more aware. If you can't invest in yourself, don't ask somebody else to invest in you. So if you're not getting paid, who cares? You're getting experience. And that experience has a value. Right? Okay. Now, is that a great idea? I think it's a brilliant idea. People ask me all the time how I got to where I am, and I told you all that this started a long, long time ago. It started a long, long time ago. I started writing an instructional column in a newspaper that came out once a week. They paid me $25. Who cares? It was an experience. I started that in 1994. I did that for a while, then I did a radio show in Greenwich, Connecticut, that only 8 people, literally, like if you were back there at the end of the room right there in the fireplace, you couldn't hear the show. But it didn't matter, because I was getting experience and understanding how to speak, how to prepare for something I wasn't prepared for, because that show's going to go on. And so what am I going to talk about? So that taught my brain to be thinking about different things at all times. And it's turned out to be very beneficial for me. So then I did that. Then I approached Cablevision. And I said, this is the best part. I've got an instructional column that I write, and I also have a radio show. Now, what does that tell them? I'm experienced. I've had no training. I sold all my advertising in both circumstances. But I'm experienced. And they went, great, because you're experienced. So, perfect. So I did an instructional tip on Cablevision in Connecticut and New York for 3 years. And then when I got an opportunity with Golf Channel, and they said, well, what experience do you have? Now again, I've had no training. No formal, like he worked at WCBS for a little while, and then he moved over to NBC, and then none of that. I've got a radio show that nobody listens to, but they don't know. Oh, it's a local. Yeah, it's just a local radio show. It's a local station for the town. How many are in the town? 60,000. Oh, okay. And then the mind goes, because again, as long as you tell people honest, the truth can kind of like wiggles around a little bit. It's true, but his assumption of that truth is different than my knowledge of the truth. He thinks if there's 60,000 people in the town, maybe there are 20,000 people that are listening to that. He doesn't know that the reception is awful and you can't hear it at the A&P that's 2 stores away. You can't hear it. Doesn't matter. It's experience. And so then when they bring me on and they go, this guy's got experience. And now I've got experience and I can think on my feet and I've thought about all this stuff. And now all of a sudden it works. And the show, by the way, was a show that I came up with 6 years prior to the show getting launched. Like you guys talk about, well, it's easy for you to... 6 years. 6 years before when I handed him a DVD. It's called A New Breed of Golf. There you go. Watched it. He said, this is too MTV-ish for us. I'd be tired or exhausted when I was done. And I'm thinking to myself, think about me. I'm going to be exhausted when I'm done. But the point is that, do I think it's a good idea for you? I know it worked for me, so I'm going to say yes, affirmative.
And especially what teaching us like branding. I think it can work in both ways. Somehow I could join them together and somehow get my brand out a little bit easier.
But the thing of it is that all it's going to do is let you think about what you want your brand to be. Whether nobody watches it, it's going to force you to think about what you want your brand to be. One of the things that all this stuff forced me to do was to become more knowledgeable more humble and more open-minded. Where I used to sit in these things, and if I didn't agree with what David Ledbetter had to say, I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It completely contradicts everything. And now, I have this motto: if you want to learn something, go to somebody that completely disagrees with you about whatever it is. Go up to them, shut your mouth, and let them talk. You'll learn something. You don't have to agree with them. You just have to learn what they think. And that's how you get wiser. Does that help?
Oh, absolutely. Great.
I know we've gone over time, and I apologize for that, but I want to make sure that you guys can get all the questions answered that you want. Anybody have any other questions? No? Okay, now, I just want to end this with just one quick thing. This is important, and this is heartfelt. You guys, all the PGA professionals, you guys are my family. And to John's point, you guys probably get asked things about me that you might not like, oh yeah, I know him, or no, I've never met him, or whatever. Does he know what he's talking about? Whatever it is. And I've never had a negative thing come out of this section. And I've been incredibly proud to be a part of it. And so, sincerely, thank you to everybody. Not just you guys that are in the room, but everybody in the Met PGA. It is an honor for me to be a member of the PGA, and I represent you guys with every step, and I'm aware of it with every step that I take. And to that end, I'm extremely grateful for the support that you guys have provided me and my family. My ability to be able to go play golf at Round Hill Club on a Saturday with my wife is a gift that I can't thank you enough for, because I'm going to be able to do that with my kids. And I see what this job does to families. And I, fortunately, am going to be able to, in the best way I can, circumvent that. And you guys, if you were out there saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's an idiot, it probably would have gone in a different direction. So I mean this sincerely. Thank you all very much. Second thing is, if I can ever help, michaelbreed.com. Enough of you know, enough people that know me. If you need my cell number, you know how to get it. Don't worry about it. I'll pick it up and I'll get back to you. It might take me a little while to get back to you. I've probably got 100+ emails that are sitting on that thing right now. I get back. It just takes time. Okay? But feel free. If you guys want to come over, you want to watch me teach and have lunch, feel free. Whatever I can do to try to help you all, I'm happy to do. Okay? Okay. Thank you all very much.